Hello, everybody. Welcome. How are you all? Good. Are you warm? No. Okay. If you're not warm, just make a good friend and get. I'm glad you guys are here. Thanks for coming on a Thursday night to the Poetry Center and braving whatever weather comes our way. We were joking and we could say, welcome to the Poetry Center in Seattle, but we're in Tucson, and we're happy for the rain and happy that you are here also for Poems on a Thursday night, which also feels like an important sign of order in the world, and I appreciate you being a part of the things that happen here. So thank you for coming and joining us. We could not be more thrilled to have the poets Matthew Olzmann and Vievee Francis here with us, and so a big round of applause to them. They've traveled almost as far as you possibly can to come visit us in Tucson, and so we're thrilled that they're here. We've had a really delightful visit with them over the past many days here in Tucson, and a true joy to talk with them about poets that are parts of their orbits and their histories and the way they've found their way forward in their lives as poets, help them think about the things that they think about, help them think about the art form, and so that's been a gift to us at the Poetry Center, where we spend so much energy and time thinking about poetry and its connections to the humans and the makers of the art form too. So huge kudos and a great pleasure, and welcome you guys. We're so glad that you're here. I want to tell you about a couple things that are coming up. My name is Tyler. I work as the director here at the Poetry Center. Our last reading and lecture of the fall semester happens right after the break of the Thanksgiving holidays. And so on December 3rd, which is a Wednesday, we'll have the poet Anselm Berrigan here who'll give a lecture on a topic. Where's Paula? I think she's almost over here. On a lecture that we're still learning the topic of. And so, but if you know Anselm Berrigan's work at all, prolific poet, and also the son of two poets. So the son of Alice Notley and Ted Berrigan, and very interested in traveling to Tucson. It's a collaboration with a group called the Bagley Wright Lecture Series, which supports mid-career poets and thinking about poetry and poetics, and giving them some space and time to do that work and then to present it. And so it was really exciting to Anselm to do some of that here in Arizona. Alice and Ted both spent some time in Bisbee, and so having that connection was important to him and important to us. So we're thrilled about that. That's December 3rd, the Wednesday, 7 o'clock back here at the Poetry Center. It promises to be a slight bit warmer, so come back. On the 4th, the next night, Anselm will read from his poetry, also back here at 7 o'clock at the Poetry Center. So a twofer that week, and we hope you'll join us for both of those events, Wednesday and Thursday, both at 7 o'clock, Poetry Center. After that, we have a break. And so I just want to remind you, if you haven't heard this message yet, the Poetry Center is going to be closed to the public from after our hours on December 13th, which is the Saturday hours that we have. We're going to close to the public. We'll reopen on January 6th, the Tuesday. And that is to allow for some work with our HVAC system. And so when you come back, we're going to have a fantastic space that will be warm and inviting and dehumidified, and will feel like an A+ HVAC experience. And thanks for putting up with us while that work happens. We're thrilled to have that accomplished and to have the Poetry Center set up for many decades to come once it's completed. And then the spring season looms, and so we're really optimistic and excited about all the poetry that's going to come your way in the spring. How many of you have taken classes and workshops at the Poetry Center in the past? Hooray! What a good group. If you haven't done that, don't fear. There's a chance for you to do this, and our spring season of classes will launch. We'll announce them on December 2nd. They'll open to the public on December 9th. And at December 2nd to the 9th, there will be our financial aid period. So we want to make sure the classes are accessible to as many people as possible. There is a small fee associated with them, but we keep it as small as we can. And we hope you'll be interested in those and take advantage of them. And that's when they'll be available to the general public on December 9th. And financial aid is just before that on December 2nd, and that starts first. Our first readings in January, just to give a quick heads up, we're really excited to be launching a new residency for queer poets with some new support for the Poetry Center. It's named for the poets H.D. and H.D.'s long relationship with Breyer. And so that will be the poets Franny Choi and Cameron Awkward Rich. who are going to be with us and reading on January 15th here at the Poetry Center. So be excited about that. And then our next reading will be also a double reading with two American poets, Eleanor Wilner and Alicia Ostriker, on January 29th. So we're excited about those. And that's the tip of the iceberg for the rest of the spring. So look forward to that. The information's coming soon. The calendar's coming soon. That's what's coming up at the Poetry Center. It's been a really beautiful season. Thanks for being a part of it. For the poets tonight, Matthew's going to read first, and I'm going to welcome up in a moment my colleague to introduce him. After Matthew, Vievee will read, and Vivee's going to be introduced by my colleague Arya Pahari, who's our library specialist, tremendous poet. If you walk through the front door of the Poetry Center, the first person you see is Arya. And so we're really excited about this. And then to introduce Matthew first as our library director, also a terrific poet, Sarah Kortemeyer. Please help me welcome my colleague, Sarah Kortemeyer.
Oh, I'm so enjoying our winter fashions. Good job, everybody. In the fractured moment we currently inhabit, Matthew Olzmann's is a voice that brings the broken pieces back together. A poet of extraordinary range, his work has a quality I persist in thinking of as Elizabethan, mixing humor with grief, rage with joy, the quotidian with the heroic. After all, if Shakespeare can festoon Romeo and Juliet with dick jokes, Olzmann can certainly mourn the scourge of American gun violence on the one hand and give us titles like I'll Forgive John Keats but Not You, and Nothing Gets Through to You, Jackass, on the other. He is, in fact, my favorite kind of poet, one for whom quite literally everything is the subject for poetry, one who pays specific, serious, empathetic attention, one whose fundamental curiosity never wavers. It is not surprising that this quality of compassionate inquisitiveness resonates for me. We recently found out this week that Matthew Olzmann and I were both students of the late, great Steve Orlin, a poet who called himself the Elephant's Child in the title of his new selected poems. The Elephant's Child, of course, was noted for his propensity to ask a whole lot of questions. Our beloved teacher Steve never met a personal question he wouldn't go right ahead and ask. Likewise, in Olzmann's work, I sense a vast reservoir of questions and a restless testing out of potential answers, propelled by a mind that is always open and rarely satisfied. 2025 has often seemed like a decade instead of a year for me. But reading Olzmann's collections to date, which are Constellation Route, Mezzanines, and Contradictions in the Design, all three of which y'all should go read immediately, I am reminded to insist on the primacy of the present moment. We're here, after all, to care about each other. And his work hoists a lamp by the door, drawing us out of the dark forests of our worst paranoias and into the truths of right now. He writes letters to the whole world with correspondence that include the oldest longleaf pine in North America, William Shatner and himself. His imagination takes us fearlessly unto the brink of death and into the minds of urban pigeons. And in the process, we see ourselves as vital parts of a killer ensemble cast, threads in a great universal weaving. We're so lucky to have him here with us tonight. Please help me welcome Matthew Olzmann.
Thank you for that introduction. This is a letter to Bruce Wayne. A good place to hide a drop of water is a stream. A good place to hide a stream is beneath an ocean. A good place to hide a man is among thousands of other men. Watch how they rush through the city like water through a ravine. I've searched many famous cities for you. There are 3 listings for Bruce Wayne in Houston, 2 in Pittsburgh, 1 in Miami, 1 in LA. In Tampa, Bruce Wayne is a retired chemistry teacher. In Flagstaff, he drives a taxi and hopes to procure a diamond for his soon-to-be fiancée. A good place to hide a star is a galaxy. A good place to hide a galaxy is a universe. Look at the night sky. Justice used to be a cowl and cape, the flicker of wings under an ateliated moon, and you, like a gargoyle, crouched atop some stone edifice. To conceal a universe, place it in a multiverse, that hypothetical clash of alternate realities. The dilemma of the word alternate is how it implies a norm, a progenitor stream from which the alternate diverges. Which is the alternate? Which is right here, right now? There is no such thing as Gotham City, but here is Gotham City, and I've been so naive believing the truth of the old mythologies, how they promised a recognizable villain, a clown with a ruby-slashed mouth, a lunatic's laugh. In the universe where I exist, supervillains look like anyone else. Give them an old flannel to wear and a square jawline to smile at the world, and suddenly they're hanging a noose in my middle school bathroom. They're shouting, "Get out of my country," from the window of a passing car. They're pulling a pistol in a crowded bar room or bus stop or the middle of the street. They could be anyone. They could be anywhere. A good place to hide a sociopath is a full-length mirror. A good place to hide that mirror is the heart of America. In the battle of good versus evil, I was so certain that good was going to win. Now, I just hope something good will survive. Get a job cutting hair or selling cars. Make it home in time for dinner. I suspect there's a parallel dimension where you, dear vigilante, long for this as well. To have a normal life is victory enough. To remain anonymous and not be spat upon on the subway. In Boston, Bruce Wayne owns a pawn shop. In Milwaukee, he plays pinochle and feeds stray cats. In New Hampshire, he goes fly fishing on the Sugar River, reels in one brook trout after another. When he removes the hook from a mouth, he might place the fish into a cooler, or he might set it back into the stream. The alternate or the original, no longer certain in which he stands. I'm going to read one more poem from this book, Constellation Route, and then I'll move on to some other things. This is sticking with that comic book theme, this is a letter written while waiting in line at Comic-Con. Klingon, Parseltongue, Na'vi. People invent imaginary languages so imaginary citizens of imaginary worlds can speak to one another. Elvish, Ewokese, Dothraki. You can learn these languages and come to a convention with your face painted blue or a leather scabbard bolted to your back and talk to people who will understand you. I understand what language feels like when you're not understood. More than once I thought some other planet might be my home. Like last week in an alley, I saw this one man punch another man until neither looked like a person. There are hundreds of reasons like this to yearn to be from some other galaxy, century, or dimension. Reasons to put on a spacesuit or wizard's cloak and hope no one will recognize you. But it's not these costumes that amaze me. It's always been the languages, the way they reach for something that can't be said in our tongue. In the only language I know, there are not enough words for parabola or isotope. Too few phrases to say I'm sorry or I'm glad that I found you. Though we've been married for years, I wish we met when we were children. If we had known each other in the year you spent alone on Earth without one friend, we could have been aliens together. I'd have those green four-fingered hands, you with your glow-in-the-dark antennae, words in the form of strange whirling noises, low chirping machine music, wisps of static, lamentations of rain. Only you and I would know what these sounds meant. So Sarah mentioned Steve Orland, who was one of my first poetry teachers when I was in grad school at studying in the MFA program at Warren Wilson College, and so I was thinking about him today while I was sitting by the Steve Orland fountain over there, and thought I would read one of his poems that Sarah helped me track down a different version of it. This is Hurricane. When his father says, "Think before you speak," it's like telling a clown to be serious for once, like telling an actor to freeze long moments on a stage and reconsider the lines he's memorized, like telling the color yellow to tone it down for the funeral. The boy is 11. It's hard to think with the noisy rain still coming down in buckets. Last night, a hurricane slammed the street, and in the morning, the boy's uncle stopped by in a canoe, waving a paddle. The big trees were upended. Everyone could see what made a tree a tree. Across the street in front of the pharmacy with his friends, someone's blonde, beautiful, visiting older sister leaned down and kissed him on the lips. All stories, explosive as storm or ordinary as a walk, lose in the telling, lose everything in fact. The lips go slack, the clean smell of the small puff of breath dissolves. His uncle is a man who works in a garage. What's left is a great noise in the night that took all the other noise away. On a ranked list of my favorite Catholic saints, this is one of them. Saint Catherine of Alexandria. Patron saint of teachers, lawyers, and archivists. Also patron saint of spinners and potters. Additionally, patron saint of mechanics, scribes, girls, and unmarried girls, which seems redundant. One would think unmarried girls could be eligible for coverage under the previously mentioned classification of girls, but this is Catholicism, where one can never be sure of anything except maybe patriarchy, which has no patron saint, but if it did, Saint Catherine would likely be called upon, as her case list is weirdly extensive and also includes Greece, apologists, millers, and all of the Philippines, which then includes exactly half my family tree, my mother's cheekbones, my Lola's recipes, most of the collected prayers I know but can't remember why. I feel I've lived a life worth remembering if I'm able to pay the electric bill or empty the dishwasher. This would be laughable to St. Catherine, who by mid-morning has already intervened before God on behalf of tanners, students, nurses, scholars, philosophers, and preachers. Furthermore, both knife sharpeners and knife grinders fall under her jurisdiction, as do dying people, which feels like a conflict of interest, as in her time there was a correlation between knives and dying people. This was not her only paradox. She converted hundreds to her faith. Then these new believers could be promptly executed by the empire. Did she know that would be the fruit of her labor? Was this the will of the saint or the will of the emperor? Is there a difference? I too have knelt before a God that knelt before an ordinary Caesar. I too have felt the outcome was unjust, though providence holds little interest in how I feel. It's as arbitrary as human memory. And memory was not then and is not now the responsibility of St. Catherine. Her responsibilities are the well-documented above categories of patronage, as well as secretaries, the University of Paris, haberdashers, theologians, librarians, and libraries, which I assume includes all the pristine collections presently in existence, but also those history has forgotten or set ablaze. Historians are not included on her oddly inclusive list. A shadowy group of untrustworthy thinkers, modern historians currently argue St. Catherine did not exist, or perhaps was a different figure with a different name, or maybe an amalgamation of several people who can't be identified, thus must also be expunged or excluded from history's most grand records, though it's possible these anonymous beings, banished from history, standing beyond the margins of collective recollection, might have been recognized and loved by their neighbors as stenographers, wheelwrights, spinsters, hat makers. The wheel. To begin the ceremony, we all do cartwheels as a symbolic tribute to the one great wheel at the center of our town. Then we club one of our neighbors over the head, kiss him on the cheek, and feed him to the wheel. To function, the town needs the wheel to turn. To turn, the wheel needs to eat. Call this a reciprocal relationship. Don't ask me about the science of it all. The people who could explain the science have all been fed to the wheel. I think it goes like this. The wheel begins its haunted mission. The gears rotate, hallelujah. Civilization advances. Then we wipe up the blood, listen to Elvis, and go to brunch. When progress slows or the gears do that raspy, grindy thing, we just toss another guy beneath the wheel. The wheel eats the guy. The guts oil the gears. Is there a better way to proceed? Could we find an alternate substance to grease the machine? Don't know. That's an engineering question, and the engineers have all been fed to the wheel. I can feel you looking at me, getting all judgy from your moral precipice, ready to wag your finger in my face and tell me about justice. Must be nice to live in a town whose buildings weren't built with unpaid forced labor, whose children wear shirts that are always clean, whose citizens would never feed an innocent or 1,000 to a bullet or a bomb or a wheel. But the truth is this, the wheel seems to be everywhere. What do you think a planet is? This circle, this massive stone, buzzing through the dark, ravenous with hunger, rotating beneath you. The one and only original reality. Adam's newest conspiracy is all of us are trapped in a computer simulation. Think about it, he says. Future civilizations will possess incomprehensible computing capacity, he says. They'll have unlocked consciousness, he says. Artificial superintelligence, he says. Mathematics of the mind, he says. They'll like run infinite simulations of humanity so they might understand humanity. And those simulations will be able to think and feel, he says, countless simulations, like a lot of them. Then he Googles living in a computer simulation to show me the evidence for this theory. And if there are, he says, infinite sentient simulations of us, odds are, he says, we are one of those simulations and not the one and only original reality. There are times when I'm standing in the garden, when I'm eating a grapefruit or driving with the windows down, when my heartbeat and my problems and the air I breathe feel wonderful or frightening, but always I feel like it matters. And that's where you're wrong, he says. None of that matters. None of that is even real. Anyone who disagrees is just living with their eyes closed. Have I too been living with my eyes closed? Have I fooled myself with a belief in love and suffering and the howling noise emerging from the wind tunnel in my chest? Have I willingly purchased a subscription to a collective delusion for the naive? No, I have not. So I respectfully disagree. And he says, fine, but respectfully, you're full of shit. And because I am an adult able to engage rationally with dissenting views, I say, no, you're full of shit. And he says, no, you're full of shit. And I say, no, you're full of shit. And he says, no, you're full of shit. And I say, no, you're full of shit. And he says, no, you're full of shit. And I say, no, you're full of shit, until I am abruptly feeling cold and remembering that spinning beach ball of death that appears on my MacBook when an app freezes or the system fails, a digital wheel where things keep repeating the way he and I are repeating and repeating, and I feel stuck, some perpetual loop where nothing I say or do can move anything forward. And I think I'm arguing about reality, but maybe I am really only sleeping in the circuitry, dreaming I'm alive while elsewhere in a room I can't see, a room in the future. Someone else is watching this as if it never happened, taking notes, calling a colleague over, tapping the screen, saying, hey, take a look at this. I have two more poems. This is a commencement speech delivered at the Buncombe County Institute of Elevator Inspectors. Lately, I've been thinking about things lifted into the sky. Szymborska gets lung cancer and is whisked into the clouds. Muhammad Ali floats the way he always said he would, but this time doesn't return to the ground. Stephen Hawking shuts his eyes and merges with one of the black holes he so adored while on Earth. Each year, this is more frequent. David Bowie, Toni Morrison, Stan Lee, onto the platform, the doors close, up they go, meteor showers, sun halos, occultations. There have been others, less publicized, less luminous figures, but absences I feel nonetheless. I've been told they're up there as well. My uncle, my mother-in-law, Blair, Jason, Stephanie, Chris, dark matter, moon dust, haze across the firmament. The work behind the scenes to get them from down here to up there is invisible and precise. As elevator inspectors, you must examine the endless chain, the lifting drum, the tension pulley, the counterweight, double and triple check, the sling, the governor, the buffer, the sheave. Ascension is harrowing. Grief is heavy. The hoist cable must never waver. It must bear the unbearable. Your vocation is difficult and unglamorous. I commend you upon your arrival at this threshold. Next week, I'll go into the hospital to have a minor procedure, a routine surgery to remove a small area of concern. I'll walk through 2 double doors, press a button, and if all goes well, go up and then come back down. I have no idea how this operation will unfold. I'm full of doubt, rock slides, and falling blackbirds. But I continue because I believe that you have faithfully scrutinized the guide rail, the load sensor, the limiter, when any of us step into an elevator. We know the shaft around the car is just emptiness, a stillness overhead, a breeze-swept darkness, everything motionless, quiet. Then far above, some sleek engine begins to whir. Its wheel begins to turn. And this poem is called Tiger Beetle. Thanks for listening to these. Tiger Beetle. Discussing my Adderall prescription with my doctor and pondering what it would be like to be able to concentrate on the important thing, the concept of justice, the rise of fascism, lawn care, whatever my doctor is saying at this exact moment, and to not feel my thoughts surging forward like, I wonder who invented the ball jar? Can a blue whale's heartbeat really be heard from over 2 miles away? Last week I saw a documentary on the tiger beetle, and it moves so fast while hunting, so fast it renders itself temporarily unable to see. It has to stop to refocus its eyes. And I thought, yes, that is exactly how my brain moves. Many times it has moved so fast I can no longer see what was in front of me, when what was in front of me was America, the price of groceries, my wife saying, I love you, and me saying, hey, did I leave the stove on? Is snickersnee a real word? Why was Waterloo a disaster for Napoleon? I should remember that. I studied history in college and was amazed by the magnitude of, well, everything, and how, when viewed from far enough in the future, none of it seemed random anymore. The decline of an empire, the fires in the West, the floods right here in Vermont, where there are 16 species of tiger beetle, each one rapidly diminishing in number, and though it runs so quickly, traversing distances 120 times the length of its body in under a second, there are still some things no one can outrun. Be still, little tiger beetle, I think, but the beetle is electric, which reminds me, isn't it messed up that Edison also invented the electric chair and once electrocuted an elephant? The motivation was capitalism, to prove his competitor's product was a more lethal conductor of electricity. I'd rather be an orchestra conductor than a lethal conductor, and I think I could do it. I could wear a tux. I could stand before the audience enthralled. I too could look elegant if I lost maybe 10 pounds. I could wave my arms as if I were the one making the music move, as if I could see the trumpet blasts and viola sighs fluttering above me, every sound flexing in unison, as if connected, the way our disparate histories are connecting right now, and I'm pointing to each individual note saying, go here or go there, louder for the people in the back, and the tiger beetle saying, man, I'm just trying to catch a moth or an ant for dinner, but I keep moving too fast. And I say, no, it's not that we're moving too fast, it's that time is accelerating and life is too fast. But the beetle is a blur, already in the future or lost in my past, and either way it's gone. The best living things are always leaving this world, and my doctor is waving her hand in front of my face, asking about my blood pressure, the amount of sleep I get each night, my anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10, asking, Matthew, are you listening? Matthew, are you okay? Are you still with us? Are you even here right now? Thank you.
Now I understand why I heard Sarah's laughter echoing through the library when she was reading Matthew's books. That was amazing, and also so contemplative, and yeah. But here we go forth into the evening with another amazing poet. And it's my honor to introduce her, to introduce Vievee Francis tonight. While reading the poetry of Vievee Francis in preparation for this evening, I kept track of what I learned in the form of a words and phrases log that lists what I Googled as I read each of her books. To give you a sense of Vievee Francis's range in terms of diction and concepts, here's a short list of entries from the log. Manumission, Civil War drums, Lethe, Volery, Hylanome, French song lyrics that I will not attempt to pronounce, Euryclus, Centauromachi, Blue Bonnet, and Tintype. Vievee's work not only bestowed new knowledges upon me as a reader, because each of those led to really delightful Google and Wikipedia rabbit holes, but her work also conjured in me the magic of making the familiar unfamiliar. Because also, as I journeyed through her poems, I found myself revisiting phenomena that I took for granted. Plants that dotted the landscape where I grew up, fairy tales I had read in school, what it felt like to accompany my father on errands as a child. The title of Vievee Francis's latest book, The Shared World, aptly describes what her poetry evokes and enacts. We are all implicated in the sharing of this world. We learn, relearn, and keep going. How terrifying, how wondrous. Vievee Francis's poetry clears space for these truths, not to compete, but coexist and co-create a feeling of aliveness we can all recognize, one that cuts through forgetting, numbing, and historical amnesia. Vievee Francis is the author of the poetry collections Blue-tailed Fly, Horse in the Dark, Forest Primeval, and The Shared World. She is a professor of English and creative writing at Dartmouth College, and her forthcoming works comprise of a memoir titled Ugly and a poetry collection titled Cleaning the Houses of the Dead. Please join me in welcoming up Vievee Francis.
Break me, and I'll sing. Break me, and I'll sing, my voice like marrow, a blood yolk spilled upon the counter. You can't stop this song. More hands than yours have closed around my throat. You may crack me. You have cracked me. I'm frightened, but so what? I'll testify. Witness, if you can. Listen, I slurped the frog leg soup gone bad, held a brass spoon like a barrel to my mouth. I could tell you what you want to hear, but I'd be broken just the same, so why not sing? I'm singing now, louder, this time and in the round. We are a wounding of red-plumed birds, every voice a bloody feather in the bone crown. A call to arms. A call to arms came as the lanterns floated upward on a night of celebration, and as flares spun upward out of the fear of those who set them, as shawled women smiled in the night, prayed into the night, and just as many ran through the swallowing night. As a bed was shared between those shepherding each other, and others shared nothing, nothing at all. As doctors took their oaths and committed no harm, but privileged some and denied others. As another dies by the hands of a group of strangers, and another by the hand of her father, and another because a stranger was lost in the anger of his mother. I'm telling you, the call to arms came as we slept and as we marched, as we questioned and as we hid our heads in the dust of nostalgia or our spent dreams, as bills came due, as the debt grew and values diminished, as women decided other women mattered less, as we raged and as we ignored, and the doors began to close and close and close and close and close, and those who had opened them were marked for death or forgetting, and those who kicked them down are marked for death or slander. And this is not the first time a call to arms has caught us imagining it had stopped. The call is ever, is constant. Don't you hear it? Don't you? What? It didn't ring out in a peal of bells. It rings out in the silent appeals of children, a child who cannot remember the name of their father. You aren't listening. And if you are listening, you must keep your ear to the street, to the field, to the alleys and bridges, to the riverbeds and floor planks of abandoned houses. And I heard the call to arms like a moan from a drain, desperately clogged, and in the lowing of cows in drought, in the impotent drone of senators, that officious blather. And in this moment, I hear the call and realize I am not the lion, but the antelope. And I must resort to my feet and my wits amid a storm of teeth and claws on a day that began as any other day. And I can't tell you why I hear what too many refuse to admit, like the pounding of your own hearts upon hearing this. The shared world. Into the bow of your ear, I whispered the secret story. Now you can't sleep either. Consider it part of your own memory connecting our childhoods that would have otherwise never crossed. I fell down and your knee was scraped. I stuffed the yellow cake into my mouth and your stomach cramped. When you were abandoned, grief filled my well. The private ravages of our spent youth and adulthood, now implicitly intimate. You pull me to you because I have already softened your sharp elbows. The pressure of your fingers in my shoulder leaves an impression as if in need I had touched myself. We are insomniacs, the grip of night freeing us from the slept-through day and its demands. It is true, once you know, you can't unknow. So we ruminate on literature and the gods, and continually seek the ousia of the empty jug. But we need no wine, really. We are eager to get on with it, to take in or do whatever forwards this living, this tripwire, keeping us tied, kite to string, present to past, arrow to quiver. I've worn it 3 days in a row. The dress my mother died in. No, the dress I was wearing when my mother died. And I took pictures of myself. Self, no. Of the dress, of my legs curled tight under the dress, only my ankles and feet showing. I held my arm up and back and did not want to show my head, my swollen eyes and chapped lips, and all that dried salt on my face. My face. She could not bear to look at unless it was with disgust. My hair, never good, no good, and my unironed dress. This one I am wearing now, with its white cotton underslip and its red embroidered paisley upon a white background. It is beautiful, even with me in it. Yes, I am not wearing a hat. She said, "You look so ugly in that hat." It was my favorite one of 3 hats. She had more than 100 hats stored in her basement in labeled hat boxes. They were her particular thing. Every Sunday, a new one, perched proudly as a bird of paradise, though only the males are so presentable. But she was a tomboy once, and so was her mother, so she hated my teacups and my dollies that I couldn't sleep without, like I slept that day when I found out she had died. I lay fetal upon the bed atop the duvet and wanted to live and felt guilt like a razor over the wrist. You always were odd and always carrying on. You talk too much. You are a mess. And I was a mess. My chest wet and my heart shrinking in, and I was shrinking, and this was good. She was always a small woman, except for 10 years, when she grew past what her small frame could hold. Who can say why her hunger grew, and why she hated my hunger to be held, and so recoiled? And I went days and days without any touch at all, and I have gone days and days since, ugly in my hat. Even my father thought so, though now he isn't sure. Since she died, so much has changed. Even this dress, now stained by wear and coffee and crying, and now the pills won't let me, and now and again sleeping in it. And just last night, keeping it on for dinner, alone at the same counter where I was when I found out she had died, a few minutes after our last phone call, when she couldn't see me and so could afford to love me. Relevance, which I'd provide if we shared more than fear. And sometimes not even that. What can I say to help you see where I'm coming from? To help you not, and what use is it? I haven't given up, but have so little left to give. Miłosz says, listen, and I do, but it takes a bowed head. Nature is so much more than I can stand, but its indifference makes more sense to me than yours. Why play on the beach, now of all times, but who's to say what another needs? I have been left so long alone. This is not at all how I meant to say this. Some things take time. Sometimes the cure is disaster first. Sometimes silence, being still as a kind of humility, as a kindness. Tintype. I'm from Texas originally. I spent a part of my childhood in the piney woods of East Texas with my mother's mother. I love those piney woods. They're dangerous and deep. They're beautiful and haunting. My Aunt Tinny was a blues singer. This is called Tintype. Thunderstorm in Palestine, Texas, 3 p.m. 10 roof, 10 teeth, 3 gold, as if from a tin pan in a slow creek drawing mud, calling up catfish from the muck. And that skinny man, Aunt Tinny's man, never married man. He's got his head thrown back, eyes closed for his daily claim. The way she pulls the hurt right out of him, like a long splinter whose release almost feels good, real good. He cooks but doesn't eat, doesn't need anything but what he took years back and keeps shacked in front of him. A woman tinned her own cans back then, and burned trash in the backyard. You think I don't know who I am? Tin-tonging the gap between there, listening with my hands stuck to my chest and the ring shout of my own feet, and now. Tin cutter just like me to hear Tinny tell it. Once you sat on that sweat-stained couch, pot liquor spotted, love mark cushions afraid of failing, and listened to her pound the upright keys, some tan and half-rotted black, barely standing, and the bench barely able to hold her tin-haired self. You won't be right. She'll mess you up if you stay too long, Tin Man. That whale wrapping its arms around you, its legs like a weighted trap. You'll cry for your mother. You'll cry like you've never cried before. Course you will, taking in what can't be taken in. Won't matter who you were. If you listen, she'll give it to you anyway. Your heart rolled in her mouth, 10 times the measure, over days like one long road of night, cold and hard as hail. I remain angry about Jefferson's treatment of Phyllis Wheatley. And I know so many people are writing about Phyllis Wheatley lately. I have just this one poem, Ars Poetica from this veil. Weary of being fog, I sometimes open up, touch my torso to make sure I'm still here. I'm here as much as any echo. Like servant to master, I read every book, book upon book, then told my own story, the one I'm telling you now. I was never anyone's muse, so what is a muse to me? He said, you don't have the sensibilities of a poet. He meant you are not among the favored. I sat for years with that stinger in my palm. Jefferson told Wheatley the same. Jefferson enslaved his own. History reveals, and so the books are burned. I burn my fingers pulling pages from the fires. I am a phoenix of memories, singe the stinger out. Come here, Phyllis. Lay your head in my lap. To oil the hair is to anoint the head. Come, darling, let my lap be yours. Let me stroke your brow. I will live in your kitchen. I laughed at the chains on me, laughed until I almost died. Off they fell. I have no children, but I hold valleys and mountains like fog. I fall and fill like fog. Husband fair for Matthew. How good to lay with my husband in our stone flat, though there are not enough windows and too many doors. We need another chair. Smaller tables wobble too much for books and won't hold both of our plates, but we eat, he and I, and the fare's good. I cook simply because he doesn't know how, never learned. I don't mind. The food is mine, too. He cooks and we laugh. How good to tell him no when I feel like it, and yes, and maybe, and we laugh more. So freeing, he and I, so freely though not carefree. There are bill collectors that threaten, and the roof over our heads, over our small bed, was not one we owned. We own so little, but we get by. We go from here to there to here on need and on whim, for desire, for work. How different from my line, from that woman not so distant, who never went anywhere beyond a field of cotton bolls, who lay with another's husband, my grandfather, not so many fathers ago, he who owned so very much, and her. Pinned beneath him, his arms of rope, his body of winter, who laughed only when she cried, his face a heavy drift over hers, her face brown as the earth below, brown as my own. And I will end with this poem, a small poem for Jennifer Chang and Martha Rhodes. Sometimes it just takes a phone call, just a sweet word to alter the week's troubles, the month's troubles, the era's troubles. From a morning without expectations, a surprise, a word unanticipated and meant, rare and jarring, syllables moving one to tears when the winter sky is a simple blue and nothing is there to impede the dailiness of things. But the word grows from a note, a hello, a salutation, and plants itself like a spring dandelion seed that by afternoon is full grown and blowing more seeds, lightly, sweetly, a coloratura of delight. And I feel as if I were both the plucked and the child plucking the stem and twirling, how a single word can set the world turning from one moment into the next in startlement. Thank you.
One more big round of applause for Vievee and Matthew. So books are for sale right over here on my right, and I know Matthew and Vievee would be happy to sign those. We hope to see you back here for the next readings coming up with Anselm Berrigan. Thanks for being here. Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you again soon.